Hi kids. So this is a little different tonight, but we're going to do something special, and it'll be fun. Um, as you can see, I'm lying in bed, which is weird, I know, but it's because I'm going to lay down while we do this, and I suggest you do the same. Do not do this standing up. Don't do it driving or in the shower or whatever like that. You need to sit down for this. I taught you a few videos ago the Wim Hof breathing technique, and it's awesome. You can get some of the same results with some more relaxed breathing, and that's what we're going to do tonight. So this is called conscious continuous breathing. So what I think is going on here is when you breathe in to the natural space where your body wants to breathe in and no higher, and then you breathe out to where it wants to breathe out and stop instead of going lower. You know, if you breathe in the natural zone, I think you're operating right in the most efficient way to get oxygen into the lungs and into the blood, because your body has figured that out, right? And so normally when you breathe in and then out, and then there's a long pause. And as we meditate, sometimes that pause can get extremely long. All we're going to do tonight is just eliminate that pause. We're going to make a continuous circle with our breath. So as soon as the out breath ends, we're going to start the next in breath. But it's going to be natural and no force and no stress. You will get there to where we're going easier and faster with less stress. Remember, any stress is going to build up lactic acid in the body, which needs to consume oxygen and all that. So we're just going to lie back. We're going to go ahead and lie back, and we're going to do this for like 30 minutes. 30 minutes solid. Um, Things you might experience. You may experience tingling. You may experience lightheaded dizziness. Don't worry, you're not going to pass out. You're not going to faint or anything like that if you stay laying down. You're also not going to harm yourself. Your blood will go more alkaline in pH, but you're not going to harm yourself. And then at the end, and then while we're doing it, to keep us excited about it, we're going to listen to the best Dharma talk I've ever heard by Thanissaro Bhikkhu. It's about the mindfulness of breathing all the way through the Buddha's 16 steps. You will learn a lot by listening to it, and I guarantee you will enjoy it. And I guarantee you will enjoy breath meditation thenceforth in your life after having heard it. Dharma talks are cool. They're not quite like Christian sermons, which are often boring and repetitive. Um, Instead, they usually contain concrete, what you can do right now steps to improve your life, reduce your suffering, and meditate better. So, Dharma Talks on YouTube, you can look up any of Thanissaro Bhikkhu's stuff, or any Dharma Talk is fine. There's a great website called dharmaseeds.org, where a man named Bill Hamilton, who was my teacher's teacher, actually archived thousands upon thousands of Dharma talks from the most famous teachers and rare teachers, and you can explore that your whole life. The Dharma is huge. Now, this is Dharma Talk numbers 101002, The Breath All the Way, 16 Steps, by Thanissaro Bhikkhu. So when you do this on your own, you can go ahead and find a nice guided meditation you like to do, or a guided visualization, whatever sounds fun. You can even listen to music, listen to a whole album. So that's what you can expect. And then at the end of the breath, we're going to sit up and do the Wim Hof fully out, uh, and then just no breathing, and see how our bodies react. It's really fascinating, the tingling, the weirdness, the interesting altered state of consciousness you get into. Then after that, when you're and you can go through the first gasp reflex, and I'll talk you through this. But at the end, when you're done, you're going to go ahead and breathe in, and you can expect auditory hallucinations, possibly even visual hallucinations, and they may last up to 20 minutes after you're done with this process. So if you get afraid, or if you get weirded out, or if you're not sure, all that is perfect fodder for insight. Why are those sensations there? What do they mean? What are the causes and effects? Look at them. Look directly at your own mind. You're not going to hurt yourself doing this, and the Dharma talk alone is worth this time. So let's get started. Put in your earphones, and I'll start Thanissaro Bhikkhu. And here we go. You can go in 1, 2, out 1, 2, in 1, 2, out 1, 2. Keep it natural. Do not go above where your body wants to go. Do not push it below. The natural zone is where you want to be. And now I'll start the Dharma talk.
Mindfulness of breathing, keeping the breath in mind, is the meditation theme that the Buddha taught more than any other. And he praised it highly. He said it can take you all the way to clear knowledge and release, the knowledge of awakening, release from all suffering and stress. It's the meditation that he taught in most detail. And you can think of it as your home as a meditator. You may need to go foraging out in other areas, having other themes for dealing with specific problems that come up in the mind. But it's good to have the breath as home base, the place you come back to. There was one time when the Buddha was talking about how important breath meditation was, and one of the monks said, "Well, I practice breath meditation." And the Buddha asked him, "What kind of breath meditation do you practice?" And the monk said, "I put aside thoughts of the past, don't hanker after thoughts of the future, and try to keep the mind at equanimity in the present as I breathe in, breathe out." And the Buddha said, "Well, there is that kind of breath meditation, but it's not the most beneficial, not the most productive." And then he went on to teach breath meditation in 16 steps. So it's good to know the steps, because these are the most effective ways of making the breath into your home base. The first 4 focus primarily on the body. You're aware of the breath when it's long, you're aware of the breath when it's short. And you can expand on this to notice other variations in your breathing. Notice when it's heavy, notice when it's light. Deep or shallow. Notice whether it's comfortable or not. Then the Buddha says, try to be aware of the whole body as you breathe in. Be aware of the whole body as you breathe out. This requires some training. You have to learn how to expand your sense of awareness and keep it expanded throughout the body, at the same time without losing focus. So you might want to practice going through the body section by section, noticing how the sensation of breathing feels in different parts of the body. How does it feel in your abdomen? How does it feel in your chest? How does it feel in your head? How does it feel in your back, in your shoulders, in your arms, in your legs? Because breathing is a whole body process. We think of it primarily as the air coming in and out of the lungs. But there's an energy flow that goes throughout the entire body, each time you breathe in, each time you breathe out. And so you want to be aware of it in the different parts of the body to make sure that it's comfortable in each part, and that the different parts are working together and not at cross purposes. So make a survey throughout the different parts of the body to familiarize yourself with how the breathing feels. That right there is a project you can do for a whole hour. You can do it for many days to get more and more sensitive to the breathing. And think of it as a way of showing goodwill for yourself and goodwill for other people. Goodwill in the sense that you're learning how to breathe comfortably. You learn how to create a sense of well-being that doesn't have to depend on things outside. feels good, breathing in feels good, breathing out. And when the breathing feels good, you're going to be much less irritable, much less likely to feel oppressed by the situations around you. So even when things go badly outside, you don't feel like they're weighing in on you, because you've got your own space right here that you can still breathe in comfortably, breathe out comfortably. And it's act of kindness for others as well, because when you're coming from a comfortable spot here, a comfortable sensation in the body, you're less likely to act on greed or aversion or delusion or any of the other ways of being unskillful with others. So people will suffer less from your defilements. This is an essential principle throughout the Buddhist teachings, that if you look after, care for your mind really well, you're not the only person who benefits. The image the Buddha gives is of two acrobats. The story goes that the acrobat who was the teacher said to his assistant, "Okay, you get up on my shoulders, and we'll get up on the top of the bamboo pole, and you look out after me, and I'll look out after you, and that way we'll come down safely." And his assistant said, "No, that's not going to work at all. You look out after yourself, I'll look out after myself, and that way we help one another to come down safely." In other words, you look out after your balance, because you can't really look out for other people's balance. The best way you can help them is to look out after your balance and make sure you don't knock them off balance. So in helping yourself, you're helping others. This is true for all the Buddhist teachings. When you're generous, you're helping yourself, you're helping others. When you're virtuous, you help yourself and you help others. You spread thoughts of goodwill, you help yourself, you help others. You meditate in other ways, you're helping yourself and you're helping others. This way it blurs the line between who's helping whom, or who's going to benefit from your practice. It's not that you're the only person benefiting when you're meditating. In the same way that when you're generous with other people, it's not that they're the only people who are benefiting. You're benefiting as well. The Buddha teaches a form of happiness that doesn't have boundaries. So as you look after the breath throughout the different parts of the body, as the Buddha said, you try to train yourself to be aware of the whole body as you breathe in, and the whole body as you breathe out. And then you try to calm the breathing. This doesn't mean that you stifle it or you stop it. It means you allow the breath to go gentle. So in any places where the breath feels harsh, you think of it just getting lighter. One way you can do this is think of the breath energy coming in and out of the body through every pore. So it requires less effort on your part to breathe in, to breathe out. That's the first set, the first 4 steps in breath meditation, being aware of the short breathing, long breathing, training yourself to be aware of the whole body as you breathe in, the whole body as you breathe out, and then train yourself to allow the breath to grow calm as you breathe in, breathe out. So it feels gentle and soothing. Now the next 4 steps have to do with feelings. First, you train yourself to breathe in and out, sensitive to rapture. The word rapture here can also mean refreshment. Ask yourself, what kind of breathing would feel refreshing right now? Because feelings don't simply come and go on their own. The mind helps to fabricate them. In other words, there's an intentional element in every feeling. So ask yourself, how can I breathe in a way that would feel refreshing, that feel, and you don't want to be heedless. You don't want to be caught off guard. So that's an encouragement to practice. Focuses the mind. And then again, at sunset, he said, this could be your last sunset. You might die at night. Are you ready to go? And if the answer is no, okay, you've got work to do, and you know what work you've got to do. You need to train the mind, at the very least to get it more steady, more resilient. Let go of all of its foolish attachments. That requires work. You need training. And then if the mind is feeling burdened, you figure out how to release it from its burdens, particularly if it's being burdened with unskillful thinking. It might be thoughts of sensuality, thoughts of anger. How can you let go of those? Sometimes you look at the object. If it's an object that excites desire, you can look at the side that it's not so desirable. This is why we have the contemplation of the body. The body may look pretty on the surface, but if you took off the skin, you couldn't look at it at all. You'd run away. And yet why is it with just that little film of skin it's attractive? What's the mind doing to itself? What games is it playing with itself? So it focuses on only the things that seem attractive and blots out everything else. Similarly with anger. When you're feeling angry at somebody, all you can do is focus on their unattractive side, the unappealing side, the unpleasant side. And you can work yourself up into a real fury. But are you really being fair? Are you being fair to the other person, or are you being fair to yourself? After all, who's suffering from your anger? You're certainly suffering from it right now. So if you find that the mind is being burdened by things like this, you find ways of unburdening it. And the Buddha takes this even deeper, to even the subtle levels of concentration. Each level has a certain element of stress. It's very subtle, but it's there. If the mind gets focused on a level of concentration, sit with it for a while so you get to know it really well. Do you recognize what's really going on in this state of concentration? Because when you first hit it, oftentimes you don't really see the whole thing. You see that it seems less stressful than you were before. You don't see any stress in this concentration at all. But you have to get familiar with it so you can begin to see, oh, there still is this little bit of inconstancy. There's still a little bit of wavering in the concentration. Or there's certain mental activities which are a little bit burdensome. Not much, but enough, so that you can notice it. When you notice that, then you drop them. That's the last of the steps dealing with the mind. But it moves you right into the last 4 steps, which have to do with what they call dhammas, or mental qualities. The first is learning how to look at inconstancy. Sometimes this is translated as impermanence, but the issue is not so much that things are impermanent, it's just that they keep changing. You think about that mountain over there, and the mountain's impermanent. You say, well, at least it's solid enough for me. But if you apply that perception to the things that you depend on for your happiness, and if there's even the slightest bit of change in those things, it's threatening. That's what the Buddha is pointing to. There's so many things in life that we pin our happiness on, pin our hopes on, that you have to look at them. Are they really dependable? They change right before your eyes. Even the state of concentration, which in the beginning seems so solid, after a while you begin to see it too has some wavering. It too has some ups and downs. And so the question is, what's causing that? What is the mind doing that's creating that rise and fall in the level of stress? This is where you begin to get into the Four Noble Truths. As the Buddha said, each truth has a duty. The duty with regard to stress is to comprehend it. It means watching it carefully, so you can see exactly what it is. And particularly so you can see what it's coming from. This is why watching inconstancy is an important part of seeing stress, because it allows you to see that the level of stress will go up and go down. That means that certain things are happening in the mind that cause it to go up, and other things are happening that cause it to go down. Well, what are those things? What are your perceptions? This is why the Buddha has you get sensitive to mental fabrication. What are the feelings? What are the perceptions that you apply, say, to pleasure, or that you apply to pain? And how do they increase or decrease the level of stress in the mind? If you see that they cause an increase, drop them, because that's the duty with regard to the cause of stress, is to abandon it, to let it go. You do this by developing the path, which we've been doing all the way through with all these steps of meditation. So you can realize that when stress abandons with the dispassion, because that's why we're looking at inconstancy, is to get a sense of dispassion for the things that we're attached to. You really have to understand what attachment is all about. You're attached to things because they give pleasure. And many times you admit, well, it's not constant and it takes some effort, but it seems that the effort is worth it, that you get more pleasure, or at least enough pleasure to make the effort worth it. But what the Buddha wants you to look at is to see that the effort is not worth it at all. That the effort, the drawbacks of that particular pleasure are much greater than the actual pleasure you get from it. Because the mind tends to delude itself. It sees its pleasures as wonderful. It paints them up. It dresses them up. It elaborates on them, so they seem much more wonderful than they actually are. He wants you to really look at it. What is the gratification you get out of that pleasure? And what are the drawbacks of that pleasure? It's in making this kind of analysis that you actually let go of things. If you simply see them as empty, as changing in line with conditions, you can drop them temporarily, but they come back, because there's still part of the mind that says, well, even if they're changing with conditions, the pleasure I get out of it is worth it. That's what you have to look into. Where is the pleasure here? Where is the effort? What's the pain and stress of the effort? Are they a good deal or are they a bad deal? That's what it comes down to. But as you look at this until you develop a sense of dispassion, that's the next step. Because it's through passion that we get involved with things to begin with, that we get attached to them. We create these things, as the Buddha said. Your experience of form, feeling, perception, fabrication, and consciousness. There's an intentional element in all of this. A thought arises in the mind and you get involved. A feeling arises and you elaborate on it. A perception arises and either you go with it or you don't. But there's a choice that's made there. Sometimes the arising of these things comes from past karma, but then it's up to you to decide whether you want to go with them or not. It's like somebody driving up in a car. It's like, hey, jump in. Let's go. And you actually have the choice to jump in or not jump in. And if you're wise, you're going to ask, well, where are we going? What's going to happen if I jump in? Because it turns out that this is not going to be a free ride. You're going to have to pay for the gas. So is it worth it? It may actually force you to pedal the car. It turns out to be a pedal car. Is it worth it? When you see that it's not worth it, you develop a sense of dispassion. And when the dispassion comes, then these things will stop, because what keeps them going is your passion. So you watch things ceasing because of dispassion. And then the final step of breath meditation, as the Buddha says, is relinquishment. You give up everything. Even the path at that point gets abandoned, because you don't need it anymore. It's like having a set of tools. As long as you have to work with the tools, you take good care of them, you look after them. But there comes a point where the job is done, where you let even the tools go. In other words, all your attachment even to the path gets abandoned at that point as well, as you breathe in, as you breathe out. So this is the kind of breath meditation the Buddha says that gives great rewards. It develops the four establishings of mindfulness. It develops all the factors of awakening, because you're developing mindfulness and keeping the breath in mind. As you analyze how you're doing this practice, skillfully or unskillfully, that develops the analysis of qualities. You try to do the best to develop what's skillful and abandon what's not. That's your persistence or energy or effort. As you do it skillfully, there's a sense of refreshment or ease that comes. That's the rapture and the serenity factor of awakening. You develop concentration and the ability to watch all these things as they're happening. That's equanimity. You have all these 7 together. Those are the qualities you need in order to develop the mind to awakening. Those are all being developed by these 16 steps. As the Buddha said, they lead to release and knowledge. The knowledge of awakening, understanding what's the mind been doing that's been causing stress, how it can let go of the cause. In other words, you've completed all the duties with regard to the Four Noble Truths. The mind is released. No longer creates any unnecessary burdens for itself. It tastes the deathless. So this is what breath meditation can do. It's not just a preliminary exercise. It's the path that can take you all the way. Now you can augment it with other practices, as I've said, when the mind needs gladdening or when the mind needs steadying. When you find that you're stuck with an unskillful mental qualities, you can use other techniques to pry the mind free from them. But the breath is where you always come back. It's your home. Because it's right here. It's where the body and the mind meet. The ideal place to watch both what's going on in the body and what's going on in the mind. So you can begin to see things as they actually are, to see where you're causing unnecessary suffering and stress. You see that it is actually unnecessary. There are these choices you're making as you fabricate your experience out of the raw materials that come from past actions. And you learn how you can do it more and more skillfully to the point where there's really nothing more to do. At that point the mind lets go. So whatever other meditation you do, make sure at the very least that you've got your home base covered. As the Buddha said, when you get involved in other meditation topics, sometimes unskillful states can arise, in which cases it always come back to the breath. He compared it to the beginning of the rainy season in India. He said during the hot season everything is dry and there's lots and lots of dust in the air. But when those first rains come through, they just wash all the dust out of the air and make the air very clean and clear and refreshing. The same way with breath meditation. When you do it right, it can refresh the mind, clear the mind, wash the dust out of the mind. So give time to this skill, because it is the most basic skill in training the mind. It's your foundation. You want to make sure the foundation is strong. If you try to build a building with a weak foundation, it's going to fall over. No matter how beautiful the building may be, it's going to fall. Make sure the foundation is strong. If you try to build a building with a weak foundation, it's going to fall over. No matter how beautiful the building may be, it's going to fall.
I just love that Dharma talk. And it's interesting how this great teacher of Buddhist philosophy says the same thing that Christ says. Okay, breathe out fully and hold it. No more breathing. Just watch what your body does. come to a gasp reflex, that first one at about 30 seconds, you can just hold it right through that. Your body will, I guarantee you don't need oxygen. You got plenty of that. And CO2 in the brain is what causes the gasp reflex. Just go through it. And when you feel like you do have to breathe again, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and breathe one last breath in and hold your breath. Do not push. You will get tinnitus in the ears. You break blood vessels in there, I think, is what happened to me. But breathe in and hold it, and you will get a rushing sensation in the ears, possibly auditory hallucinations. You might also, if you got your eyes closed, you might see images from your day. You might see things moving in your vision. And when you're done with that, just let it go. And just sit with the feeling. You're definitely in an altered state right now. And you've also heard some pretty cool Dharma. I just love how that great Dharma teacher uses the same example that Christ uses about the foundation. This stuff is stuff we Christians should have thought up and should have used, and the people that have thought it up in Christianity throughout the years have been pushed to the sidelines. But remember, God, the real God, Jesus, he just like he always does this. Even though we fail as a people, as a religion, as a nation, he raises this stuff up from where it's, from another place. Just like he says in the scripture, where they say, don't think that just because you're a son of Abraham that you've got it covered. God is able to raise up sons to Abraham from these very stones on the ground that I'm looking at right now. And that's what I think that God has done with Buddhism and the Dharma, even though we Christians have kind of failed in some of these things. Christ still makes it available to us, and I'm making it available to you. I love you, kids. I'll do another video soon. I know that was long, but I hope you enjoyed it.